Okay, welcome back everyone to the Mile Extra, where the hard way is the easy way. Today we have Jeremy Field on, who is a friend of mine and a very interesting guy. He wears a lot of caps, to be honest, predominantly real estate these days, but he's been a personal trainer. He's been a few other things, but we'll get into that in the episode. So, Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Brent.
So, for everyone listening, who are you today?
Full-time property investor, property trader, and yeah, that's pretty much my full-time job. I was a real estate agent before that, and prior to being a real estate agent, I was a personal trainer, and I had an apprenticeship that I did in printing before that, and then I did printing and personal training together, try and get my income up so I could buy investment properties and move into full-time property investment, which is where I am now.
So I've got a background, as you know, in gyms and personal training, and I know there's a lot of crossovers. What are your thoughts on that, on some of the transferable people skills that cross over? Because at the end of the day, the human condition doesn't change as much as some people think, and if you
Yeah,
get it right in
correct.
one industry, you can
Yeah, I think there's
transfer.
there's a recipe for success. I think a lot of people who are successful in business are also aware of their health and fitness too, and they're typically driven individuals. And I think the main thing with the crossover between investing and fitness is that delayed gratification. You're working towards something long term that you don't necessarily see the results for every day, but you know that as time goes by, you will compound those effects and get yourself to a better place in the future. And I think a lot of health and fitness people and also financially savvy people kind of see things the same way. They don't look for that instant gratification because that's often very short lived. So I'd say that's
Yeah,
probably the biggest
100%.
crossover.
Yeah, I agree. So, what about other than the delayed gratification? I get what you mean. It's kind of the iceberg thing.
Yeah,
You do lots of people can't see all the underneath, and then they only see a little bit of it. But it's like losing weight. You lose weight in little chunks.
yeah,
Basically, you don't.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah,
it's about being process driven, right, as opposed to reward driven. Um, People who do well in life are passionate about the thing they're doing every day, as opposed to the result they get at the end of it. I'm not into tech or gurus, but the likes of Elon Musk, I think everybody knows he's obsessed with what he does. I don't think there's a part of him that's obsessed with becoming a trillionaire. I think that is a byproduct of his drive and his willingness to learn and scale. And I think health and fitness who set goals and they say, look, I want to lose 10 kilograms, but as a good personal trainer will say, what do you think a person who loses 10 kilograms does? And then it's those things are the things that you need to fall in love with, because you could lose 10 kilograms and stop doing them and then you're back to where you were before. So it's the same sort of thing in anything that you want to become good at. You need to have some sort of love for the process, otherwise it won't last.
have you ever heard of the marshmallow test?
You go into it.
It's exactly what you're saying. It's the same thing you're touching on, and they bring in a marshmallow. I could be butchering this a little bit, but basically they bring in a marshmallow. For anyone listening who hasn't heard of this, I think Harvard or Oxford did it. One of the real reputable place, and they bring in a marshmallow, give it to a kid, and say, "Hey, if you can," I could be quoting the minutes wrong, but if you can sit here for 10 minutes, I'll come back, and if you don't eat the marshmallow, you get two.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think about 90% of the kids just bang that first
yeah,
marshmallow,
yeah,
bang. But
yeah,
what's funny is that they track these they track these 10-year-olds or whatever they may be, 12, 8-year olds. They track them for their whole life
yeah.
after that. And the
Okay.
ones who resisted and held out for the second marshmallow, they did better in every single fucking facet. It was crazy.
But yeah,
Yeah, you've got some hard science backing up what you're saying as well.
hard science, man. That's where I like to refer back to my hard science, man. That's me.
Yeah. So, other than delayed gratification, what are some of the, I guess, sales skills and dealing with people that you got from PT that transfer into doing property transactions, on selling deals? You're dealing with humans all the time, and either.
Yeah. I think being trying to learn. Well, I'm not naturally a super empathetic person, but personal training probably taught me to understand people better and understand. people's situations and the way that we look at life through a lens is relates to our personal experiences and our upbringings. And yeah, people, it's easy to say someone's wrong, and they might be wrong, but if you can understand how they got to being wrong, it's a lot easier to teach them to be right. And if you can understand someone's story or their message or what drives them, you get a better understanding of how to help them. And there's not always just one way to skin a cat too. I think a lot of the time, if you understand what someone's barriers might be, sometimes it's easy to find a different way to do something than try and break through a ceiling. Dealing with people day to day, as you start to realize, hey, look, they just don't. There's a knowledge gap here. They actually just don't know. And I think helping people in property and helping people in health and fitness, a lot of the time there is a knowledge gap. And when you're doing something all the time, it feels really easy, but you remember that the people you're dealing with aren't doing that all the time. When you're spending 8 hours a day in the gym helping people, you see things for 8 hours a day when people might be in the gym 3 hours a week. And it's the same with analysing deals and dealing with people in property. You look at something and you go, well, this is an easy fix because I've dealt with this 50 times this year, and someone's dealt with it once or twice in their whole life. It feels very heavy and scary. And so I think sort of understanding, giving people grace and sort of empathy in those situations, and understanding that you're in a position of privilege, and it's not a given privilege. It's a learned privilege, but it's still a benefit that you have that someone else doesn't have. And instead of making people feel stupid, you can make them feel understood, and sort of reiterate that, hey, look, this might feel really heavy, or this might be a scary thing, because buying an investment property is a scary thing. But when
going to the gym's a scary thing if you're 20 kilos overweight.
Yeah, that's right. Like, even going to the gym can be scary at the beginning, right? And there are people who think
100%.
they need to be ready to go to the gym, and you don't get ready and then do something. You learn something by doing it, and it doesn't have to be perfect at the start.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big crossover there.
I reckon 50% of learning. You can read, you can do this, you can do that, but 50%'s in the doing, empirically doing the thing. I agree.
100%. And without doing it, you never know if you got it right, because you can't apply it.
No.
That's
I've got
always...
a thing. I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, like, I do this thing, it's called failing forward, and like I just kind of like, even if I'm tripping up or falling over, learning something, by the time I stand up, I'm fucking 10 steps ahead of the person who did nothing.
Yeah, 100%. It's like the old, you lap everybody on the couch every time you go to the gym. Doesn't matter if it wasn't perfect.
Yeah, 100%.
You still skinned everyone else. So I think it's the same, and it's the same with doing deals in property. If people they wait for perfect, and people, it's understandable to wait for perfect, but if you look at anything long enough, you'll see that there are imperfections. So perfect is never perfect, because nothing is, but people wait for that perfect in expectation that it's going to come along, and so they never do anything. And we say in properties, like, it's better to have 10 good properties than one amazing property, because if you have one amazing property, you'll spend the next 10 years waiting for another one, whereas if you just bought a good property every 1 or 2 years, you're still actually further ahead than that person who's waiting for the unicorn. And that's a super common mistake that I see with people who want to be investors, is they think that, well, this first one was amazing, and it's like, yeah, it's amazing, but you can just get like right place, right time sometimes. But
100%.
People who have 100 rentals or even 10 rentals, not all 10 of them are amazing, and more people regret selling them in the end than saying, a lot of people say, oh, I wish I hadn't got rid of that property, but you can only do that if you bought them. Like, if you never buy them, you'll be like, oh,
yeah,
I probably actually should have just bought some, So people get in this like loop, and a lot of that's fear, right? But you learn when you fail as well, right? Like you're saying, and if you don't do it, you never fail. But then that's the biggest failure. So,
and and the scary thing gets not so scary if you do it more.
That's it. Yeah, and change is hard, but staying the same's hard. So we'll pick you hard, right?
100%. Yeah. And then you get to a certain point. I've bought a property mortgagee. I wasn't not even allowed in the gate. That's because I've done it enough to be like, I kind of know that house. It's 50s, it's weatherboard.
Yeah,
Gonna probably rebuild most of it anyway. And that. And
that's
that's
it.
like not like I'm braver than other people.
Yeah,
I just know a bit more.
that's
Like
right.
what you're
That's
saying.
right. And so you get confidence because you know it. You know,
Yeah,
you don't need
100%.
you don't need to be more intelligent if you can be similar but confident enough to act.
Mm. Yeah,
So
100%. And I think you're right. You are right. Like with that, you just got to try stand in other people's shoes because their perspective of things. You just sometimes think people are ignorant or stupid, but they're just seeing the world through a different lens or a lens you've got a lens of knowledge they don't have.
yeah, yeah.
I, I agree with you. Like, yeah,
And a level of passion too, I think, can change that as well, right? When you're passionate
yeah,
about something, you're always going to care more and put more time into it than someone who's just, I'd like to do it, whereas someone else would love to do it. Well, the person who would love to
yeah,
do it is going to progress faster.
yeah.
And so,
But for those
yeah,
scared people, I guess the scared people, what is something, how can they inoculate themselves from being as scared? I guess if they haven't bought an investment property, they haven't been in the gym, I know we can just say, just fucking do it. But I guess what's something you could do? I'm just throwing this out there. What's something they could do to not be as scared so they do the first step?
um, I think like there's probably two things that I'd say straight off the bat would be breaking up whatever your long-term picture is into something really palatable and bite-sized. And it's just taking a small step, and that way you don't have to think about the next thing that comes after that. So taking some of the anxiety out of something, if it's I want to buy an investment property, but I'm scared to do that, it would be, oh, have you done like go to an open home or sign up for the gym, like do a
Yeah,
step, and once you've been there, then you go, oh, okay, and it becomes more and more palatable in our mind what we can handle. And
100%.
it was same like, or hire a coach, hire a personal trainer. That's still a
The
step.
fear drop. You're
Yeah,
dropping the fear.
that's
Have a
right. You take
trial
away some
day.
of the unknowns, and
Mm,
the more you can do that, or surround yourself by people that are doing it. That's one of my biggest things has always been trying to get around people that are smarter than me or who've done more than me. And that gives you confidence because if you hang around people that have all done it, you go, "Fuck, I'm the only one who hasn't. I'm the idiot," you know? And
that's an easy piece of advice, but most people won't do that. I was reading a book. It's called The Paradox of Choice. It's a really good book recently. And it said like 50, but they did the study on people, right? And they said, would you go to the numbers again, like the marshmallow could be slightly off, but you'll get the main point. They said to people, do you want to go work at this X job? You've got two job opportunities you can take, right? This one here, you're getting paid 80K and everyone around you will be getting paid 70. Or this one here, you're getting paid 100, but everyone around you will be getting 120. And do you
gotcha.
know what most people chose?
80 and 70.
Yeah, the lower amount. So they were a big dog in their pond,
Yeah.
which is fucked because
Yeah, it's crazy.
you're not going to learn by being if you're the biggest dog somewhere, what do you,
Yeah, yeah. You're stagnant.
like, but most people won't do what you just said, even though that's real obvious. And that's out of ego, arrogance, whatever you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
call it.
It is,
That's a
and it's
fuck stat though, eh?
and
It's
yeah, I
fuck.
think it is. It's ego. I think a lot of it's fear ego though, because it's easier to not be challenged. You know, we live in comfort,
Yeah,
whereas
yeah. But
and
to objectively lose 20 grand a year for it,
yeah, well that's
yeah,
it. People make change because it's pain. There's a pain, so there's a pain that's driving them to change, or they think that the pain of changing is too much. And so people base it off that. And that's why people who become really driven often have a really hard backstory or an upbringing that takes a lot of that pain out already because they were in such a shit spot. Everything was change. Whereas if you're comfortable, you don't need to make change. You can make change, but it's a choice. Whereas when you don't have a choice, you just have to fucking do it. And so a lot of the most successful people I know didn't have it easy. So change was
yeah,
automatic because life either was going to be shit and
yeah,
it
yeah,
sucked
yeah.
anyway, or you had to do some shit to make it better. Whereas if you're already in a warm, comfortable environment, Why would you want to work for something more? Like that's what most people just want that have come from shit. So
Yeah, 100%. And the people that come from shit too, they've got a good barometer they can measure against, like, oh, this thing's hard. Well, it ain't that hard because this was way fucking harder. Like,
yeah, yeah,
or, so the
and risk
contrast for them.
profile too, right? Like
Mm,
I always go like, what's the worst that can happen? I go back to being broke. Like, yeah, but I was still alive. Life was still okay. Like it sucks, but
yeah,
it's
yeah, 100%.
whereas other people like they think they're gonna lose. Like if something goes wrong, they think they'll lose everything, and that it's pretty hard to lose everything.
Especially with mainstream banks and their lending. Like if they've given you a loan, you're probably
Yeah,
okay.
it's not a property game; it's a finance game.
100%. Do you want to explain that a bit for people who won't understand what we're talking about?
Yeah, yeah. Like the system of property, you basically it's like anything scalable, right? When you want to do it in a bigger scale, it's formulaic. You come up with, hey, this is my target. This is how I'm going to get there. I break it up into these steps. Okay, well, what's going to be my biggest barrier to achieving those steps? And for most people, it's actually not finding good properties. It's being able to come up with the finance to buy those properties. And so if
Which is two
someone wants,
components, really:
yeah, that's right.
income and
It's
equity.
finding it and it's buying it. And if you can do those things, and obviously part of finding it is finding the right thing. So there's knowledge attached there. But once you know what that looks like, that knowledge doesn't change. But your financial
Not directly,
capabilities
no.
is going to your finances can change, laws can change, interest rates can change, deposit requirements can change, and unless you have an endless supply of money, that is a barrier, and that's the most likely thing to stop people. I can find good properties right now, but I can't buy all of them, and so
Yeah, 100. I'm the
you
same.
need to.
I endlessly look.
Yeah, yeah, it's because we're suckers for it,
Yeah,
right?
we could go forever if we had the
Yeah, but
yeah, if we had
you need
the
that skill.
checkbook in the old school.
Yeah, yeah. You just need an old school business banker who's going to write you. Oh yeah, I like that guy. He'll be all good. Um, but it's not really the world that we're living in, unfortunately. So, but yeah, that's the biggest thing I think is sort of being able to learn finance. And is that saying if you owe the bank $1 million, that's your problem. But if you owe the bank $100 million, that's their problem. Um, and
Yeah.
it's pretty true, right? Like they don't when it's $1 million, you're like, oh shit, that's on me. When it's 100 million, they don't want you to go bust. They want
Yeah.
to keep the business churning, right? They're making money off 100 million. So when you've got $1 million of debt, they're like, oh, this is fine, but you need a million people with $1 million worth of debt. When you have people that have got 100 million, you need a lot less. So yeah,
To be honest, these days, they cotton wool like everybody so much now that if you're getting a loan through the mainstream bank, you're probably going to be okay. And that cotton wool thing they do is kind of good. Like it looks after, stops people doing stupid things themselves, but it can be a barrier too to first home buyers and people who know what they're doing. It's like such an unnecessary barrier, I think, sometimes. But I get why they do it. So there's not widespread mortgages and hard times. But I guess the short of what we're saying, if you're getting a loan through the mainstream bank, 9 times out of 10, you've been, they've crossed and checked all your balance. You're
yeah,
probably okay. Going right back to our fear thing, you're probably
yeah,
going to be
yeah.
okay.
That's right. That element should be taken out of it. And if you can get the finance, then it's like, okay, just make sure you buy the right property. The finance, if they're giving it to you, you're probably okay. That's non-financial advice because neither of us are financial advisors.
Yeah, I know we would love
But
to say that,
yeah,
but
we would say that typically in that situation, it's about finding the deal. But for most people who know how to find the deal, it becomes about the ability to get the money to do it. So, and
yeah,
because that
kind
changes
of.
too, right? The changes with governments, it changes with economic situations. Finding a property is formulaic because once you know what a good one looks like, for most people, that criteria will, within a few parameters, be pretty stable for their whole life. Whereas lending can change drastically between one government to the next or one economic environment to the next. And so you're constantly having to re-evaluate and learn what even is the best way to do something, and that's why having like brokers and stuff obviously important because that's their job. But having a good understanding of that's obviously key as well, because part of my understanding of what we do with being higher yielding properties is not this might suit a lot of people, but who can actually buy this property and who's going to lend on this property. Because if you have someone whose broker has a knowledge gap about this sort of thing, they might go, oh, we'll take it to this bank. But we know straight away, well, that bank's less likely to take it on because it's this many units, or they don't like them in this area so much, or they have a saturation. Or so you don't want your buyer to waste their time dealing with that because that's wasting your time. So, you know, fortunately and unfortunately, there's a knowledge thing in property is you start to learn other people's jobs a bit too, like lawyers and brokers. You need to pick an element of their skills as well, right? And so
100% you do.
that
I got taught once from someone, this was with owning a gym or any business, you need to be about a 7 out of 10 in every facet. Like, you don't need to know the law to a 10, but you need to know it to a 7. You need to know an accounting to about a 7. And he's freaking right, because like a lot of those people I use, you think they're just going to do everything right. And I've pulled them all up on doing shit wrong
yeah,
all the time.
yeah,
And if you fundamentally know the basics of it, you can have proper conversations, you can work together. I kind of treat those people like tools. They're like a hammer and I kind of use them. You want to know
yeah,
to use them properly
yeah,
rather than just, a lot of people have this delusionary kind of thing. They think when they're young, oh, if I just get an accountant and get a lawyer and start a business, everything will be fucking mint. No, it won't. It will not be
yeah.
mint.
No,
So I agree with you.
I think that comes back to probably what we're talking about too, with different services and stuff. Everybody knows somebody, and so people just defer to the person they know. They're like, oh, well, that will be my blah blah blah, whether it's their broker or their real estate agent or their personal trainer, or you go, oh, that will be my person. And that's great when you don't want to be the best at something and you just want to do something okay and you want to buy one property and that's fine, you know, it's a straightforward first home. That person probably can be your broker, that person probably could be your lawyer. But if you want to do something professionally, you want to be one of the better people doing that thing, you will need a team that have the better people doing that in that. So, you know, we see brokers all the time who don't know really what they're doing. They don't know how to package a deal up to the bank. We see lawyers who rip up the handbrake on things as opposed to applying knowledge around risk. They say, oh, look, this is a problem. And then they just finish the conversation. Whereas, yeah, it's a problem in this
They
situation.
leave buyers being like, now what? They're just like,
Yeah, yeah,
no,
like
bro, we
that.
just
They're like,
pointed out.
oh, I don't
We
like
don't know how to
that.
fix it.
Yeah. And like, I think what you're saying before too, the cotton wool thing that happens in a lot of industries as we go, everything's very algorithm based. So it's like, yes, no. Computer says yes, no. And it's like, okay, if it's a no, why is it a no? What's the risk? And then learning, well, how do I mitigate that risk? And what's the chance of that thing that's risky actually ever happening? And I think lawyers, they don't want to get in shit for giving the wrong information. So they just rip up the handbrake and you're like, yeah, I get it. And then you find lawyers who deal with people all the time. You know, people say, who's a good, cheap lawyer? I'm like, mate, the rich people aren't going, who's a good, cheap lawyer? They're going, who's the best lawyer I can use? And that's relative to your budget. But if the price is the first thing you're worried about when it comes to a lawyer, you're not going to get anything done. And you'll probably be screwed anyway. It's an investment. And it's the same with brokers, right? Like, oh, I've got a good broker, and is it a good broker or is it your friend who's a broker?
Yeah. So I guess for people listening, just they could look on the internet, get Google reviews, like just have a good look around, talk to a couple of them. What would your advice be to people finding brokers, lawyers, accountants?
Yeah. I think accountant's the hardest one out of the three, to be honest. But I always ask people who do better than I do at something what they would do, you know, and leveraging other people's knowledge and experience. Someone who might do 30 deals in a year or more, someone might do 100, and they might have been doing that for 10 years. Well, they have more experience than me. And you're arrogant if you think you know better just because you do it, whereas someone who's been doing it for a lot longer, surely at least ask the question.
So for everyone listening, how many deals would you be doing roughly in a year? And a lot of people won't quite understand what you do. Everyone understands what a real estate agent is. So do you
Yeah.
want to just quickly touch on what you do, how it's different from being a real estate agent, and how many deals you're probably turning over on average? Just to give, I know you're doing a lot, but just to give everyone a,
Yeah, I'm probably not doing a crazy. I know people doing a lot more than me. And because I've only been doing this a couple of years, I'm probably doing between 10 and 20 a year, but I would deal with over 100. So we effectively trade property, right? And trading property comes down into like little subgenres of different types of doing that and hold property. But the trading part is the most that's like a job, right? Rentals isn't really a job. Um, Trading deals is. So there are people out there who sell a property online and they don't know how to do that properly, whether it's an agent or an off-market deal, and they don't know how to position that for the right person. Or it might be a development deal where, hey, this is a big package of property, and the bigger the package of property, the bigger the price point. There might not be as many people in that price point, but can we split that package of property up into smaller, more palatable size pieces that are easier to sell and then make a profit in between there? And that's the type of thing that we do. So we're effectively trading properties to the
yeah.
direct
So for a
channel that
car
it should go to.
analogy,
Hey?
so for a car
Yeah, like,
analogy, I'll give a bit of an analogy. Like, I used to actually buy old cars and motorbikes and do them up and sell them. So
yeah,
sometimes I'd just buy them, sometimes I'd just resell them if I knew someone who wanted it. I had 17 cars at one point in my life, and my height of my trading cars around and shit. But
yeah,
so effectively, you're doing this at a much higher level. Sometimes you might buy the property, know someone who wants it straight away. Sometimes you might renovate it and flip it yourself. Sometimes you might
exactly.
get on with a developer, say, hey, should we split this in four? And you're finding buyers. So I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
car analogy is quite an easy one for people to.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I'll package it up and help them renovate it themselves afterwards, because they might have a knowledge gap. They might have the funds to do it. At the moment, I've got my funds tied up in this, but hey, I'll help you with this. I'll give you a bit of a discount on it because you have to do the work yourself, but I'll kind of guide you through it. And
Yeah,
it's not quite at the level of property coaching because it's not something I'm super passionate about. I like helping people, but I don't like the day-to-day stress of having all those people needing something from me
attached.
potentially.
Yeah,
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 but
yeah.
I like helping people achieve their goals. Just at the moment, I don't want to be doing it at a scale that property coaching would take it to. I like the freedom of what I'm doing
Yeah,
at the
100%.
moment. It means I can work from my phone around the country, and we're doing deals across New Zealand, looking for properties that will pay for themselves, and that there are opportunities to increase the value, really, and maximize the returns for the buyer. So try and make deals, a level that the person selling it's happy with, the level that the buyer's willing to pay for it, and then obviously with some profit in between. And then, like I said earlier, sort of thinking a few deals ahead, you want to make sure that it's profitable for you, but you want to make sure the person buying it and the person who sold it is still happy enough that you can do repeat transactions in the future. Because New Zealand's a small place and everybody knows somebody, and reputation's critical in most industries, but especially personal training, especially finance, and especially property. It's pretty easy to get a bad reputation, and there are bad eggs out there. So I like to sort of think, you know,
So you still do other, you don't do coaching, but you do quite a few speaking things. You hold events, those sort of things. Do you want to touch on? You've flipped a
yeah,
lot of houses, obviously. You've been in a few magazines. I know this is your main thing, but you still do. You are a bit
yeah, do a
broader
little bit
than
of
that.
everything really. Like I do like helping people, and I like property, and I like being able to help people with property, and I like networking and learning from other people's stories. I find case studies have always been the thing that I'm most passionate about, and that's something that I want to grow that side of things a little bit as more of a personal interest. Um, but yeah, I just held a
What do you mean
networking.
by case studies? Just on people
Yeah,
specifically?
so like podcasts where people talk, like what we're doing right now, is the stuff I always found most motivational. I like learning information is great, but seeing people apply it is more motivational and inspirational to me as a person. That's how I got into doing what I do. I saw people being successful and I thought, man, that's really cool. And then when you learn their story, you're like, well, I can relate to that person, and that makes it more believable for yourself too. And that's kind of where I like to work in that space of being like, well, I got started this way, so I want to give information back to people to help them do the same thing. And so, like, I just held a networking event in Christchurch. There was 150 people, paid tickets for that, had sponsors. That went really well. First time doing an event of that scale, so there's a few things that I'd fine tune, but it was a really successful event, and so I'm looking to get into doing some more of those sort of around the country. And yeah, been on podcasts and in a magazine, and sort of trying to just get out and about and meet as many people as I can.
So you've done a bit of house flipping and things as well?
Yeah, I've done house flipping. We have a few rental properties. I had a few more previously. And sort of always looking to grow my portfolio, but that's, like I said, it's a finance game. You've got to wait till the time's right. But I do believe that there are good deals in every market too, like when you can buy, because finance is the hard bit, is probably the right time to buy. You always need to buy well, but, if you can buy now, you probably should be looking to, because life changes, especially for people that have kids or changing careers. Every time you have a kid or you change career, your ability to borrow money changes almost instantly, and it can change for 2 years, and then you can't go again. So when someone says, hey, you can go now, you should probably be going.
Especially if you're basing that off fundamentals, like, well, I know what you do, and a lot of people, you'd have to explain this to people, but you'll want a certain net return and a certain blah, blah, blah. So if you're getting an all right net return, and even if there's fluctuations and interest rates later, you're always going to be fine. So you've got these, like you said, you use a rubric and it's nearly formulaic. So it doesn't matter when you go, because to some people it might, if they weren't using a system like that, though it would matter if you overpaid and then it went up and it wasn't getting much rent. So it could be a lot different story. Do you want to touch on that? Like, for me and you, that's obvious, but
that's
why you're sort of saying buying now is buying at any time is good if you know what, that goes back to knowing what you're doing a bit too, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, correct. And so, everybody's, this is why I keep saying it's not financial advice, but everybody's personal situation is different, right? Financially, lifestyle, what they want, their goals, their work, their income, everything's different. But for most people, I think there's sort of common things that when you look at a property, you want to know, right? Property's cyclical. Property values go up and down. They tend to go up over time, especially due to inflation, because the dollar becomes worthless. So on paper, it seems more expensive.
Bill costs go up.
And so there's elements there that you need to make sure that you're aware of. And I sort of do what I call like risk pricing. So I will take a punt on a riskier property if I can get an absolute steal for it. But you don't want a whole portfolio built around properties like that, because you can afford, anyone who's building a portfolio, if you have 100 properties and you have a couple of riskier ones, doesn't matter so much. If you're getting your first rental and it's a riskier property, it could set you back. So as you get more knowledge and more established, you can take on those sort of more difficult properties that can end up being a lot more profitable, because you can prop it up somewhere else in your portfolio, and as yourself as an investor, you know what that looks like. So it's like, okay, I bought something in the regions and it might not get the same growth as sort of like Auckland. Everybody goes Auckland, gold standard, but you don't get Auckland properties that pay for themselves very often. So if you want to build a portfolio, you can't really just buy in Auckland unless you have a very high cash paying job. So then you go, okay, well, I'll go into the regions, but you want to get a higher return. So then you not only go into the regions, but you might need to look into a suburb in the regions that isn't as pretty on the eyes as going into Remuera in Auckland. There's a high yield area or a low yield area, and you want your yield is your return on your mortgage, and so you want a higher yield than what you're paying. And that's where you can prop up your more expensive blue chip areas, like if someone has a property in Auckland, they can usually they will need to top up that mortgage. But they
100%.
hope that they have better growth moving forward and that the prices will go up. That's speculative. That doesn't pay the bills at the time. So,
It's, something, a rumor that's, I don't think, why this rumor persists, I reckon, is because it was true 20 years ago. But I have so many people I run into these days still think they can buy, like, I live in Tauranga, you know that, I live in the Mount. I run into people who don't own a rental who still think they could just randomly grab any rental around here and rent it out and it covers everything. And I'm like, where the fuck did you get that from? The 80s?
yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, so
Well,
a
that's the
lot of
thing,
people
right?
probably, they think that's true still. And I'm like, it is not.
No, no.
So,
And we always say like you can buy any house and rent it out and you own a rental, but not every rental is an investment. An investment has a return, and anyone can own a rental, and that's why most, the stats like over 80% of people only own one rental, and it's because they're mum and dad investors who have moved out of their old home, and then they rent it out, and they're like, well, it's got less debt on it, but you will have more debt on the house you're buying, and any broker would tell you that that's actually not the best way to do it. If you want to buy a rental, you should buy a rental that is an investment from the get-go. And sometimes you're better to sell your house to do that. But that's a harder process and it's scarier, and people are emotionally attached to their house and they go, well, but I've got this house. I'm like, yeah, but if you had to put all of that debt against that house, does it stack up as a rental? Like as a real investment? And the answer is often no. I've been through that situation and I was like, well, I'm just going to have to sell my old house. I loved it. I grew up in it. But I was like, this doesn't stack. Yeah, yeah. And that's that
yeah,
blue chip thing, right? Blue chip, easier to sell, typically higher, it's said the higher growth. I think a lot of the time
not always.
people misrepresent that. They look at Auckland and they're like, well, the house prices. A lot of the time, the percentage of growth is actually very similar. 10% growth on $100,000 is $10,000. So that's how it gets that snowball effect, like you're saying. Like that Auckland might not get any different growth, but the dollar value is higher because the entry level to get in is higher.
Yeah, and it's all it's all nuanced too. Like people go to me because I'm a big fan of cash flow, and I think you have to start there if you want to own rent. Like correct me if I'm wrong, but I think everyone nearly starts here. You get the high cash flow properties, the regional areas, if you want to grow a portfolio. But there's also like I've run into people before, and like there's a couple and they both own both earning 100K each, and like got no time. A property that actually is lower yield and a blue chip thing straight away, that might be okay for them. They can't be fucked with a rental miles away.
Yeah.
And there's other things people don't tell you, shitty tenants, this and that. So everyone's a little bit different too, but usually most people would want to start with what you're saying with the higher return. I would think most people.
Yeah, I think the knowledge gap there for a lot of people is a big issue, and effort. Buying a new 2-bedroom townhouse is the easiest property you can buy effectively, right? The price point's low, the deposit requirements typically are low. The yield is also low because there's no risk. Like you're buying something set and forget. You've got no land. You can't add any value. The price is the price, and the benefit is already valued into that. And so that seems safe because they've just built 5 of them next door to each other. What's the chances of all 5 of them being a problem? Whereas when you're buying an older property, you're going to a neighborhood that's older. You don't know what the neighbors are like. You see a house and you get a builder's report and it's got a couple of issues on there and you're like, oh man, and what do all these issues mean? You're like, well, it's a house, any house that gets a builder's report that's 40 years old, you're going to find something on. So it's overwhelming for people. So they default to the easiest thing they can do, and that ends up tying them up for a long period of time because they're not getting ahead with that property. If it's not paying you cash flow, it has to go up in value for you to do anything with it. So you need one or the other, or you need a bit of both. But a lot of the time, where they're building those townhouses, the supply is cranking because you can put 10 of them or 4 of them or whatever on a site that had one house. So you're taking away a dwelling for 3 to 4 people, but you're putting dwellings for 16 to 40 people. So why would the price or value go up? Because the
Yeah.
supply is creating at a faster rate. You've only gotten rid of one house, but you've built 6. And then you go, well, how many times can we do this? Well, you can do it indefinitely. Like, as long as there's land around.
Yeah. So I guess it's interesting. Everyone's different, I guess, on what they want to do and where they want to go. And it's
Yeah. If you're a doctor
funny,
and
you
you're on
need
300 grand, go for it. That's
buy
fine.
the new houses. Fuck it.
Yeah. That's
You know
fine.
what's-
And you'll be able to pay it
It's
down.
funny. Yeah, because you know what's funny? At the end of the day, too, it's like you get a lot of people on social media wanting 10, 20 houses, whatever, but they've never had 10 or 20 old houses. And they're actually a lot of fucking work. I know as I get older, do you know what I want? I want fucking less.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather have less high quality, but that's as the pendulum shifts and you've paid stuff down, I'd rather end up with less, ironically.
Yeah, exactly. More doors and more problems, right? More tenants, more doors, more
100%.
problems. I think when
100%.
you're trying to grow a portfolio, it's important to understand leverage. And I had the conversation with a friend who hasn't done any investing before. This was over the weekend, and he's like, if you had $1 million and you wanted to build a portfolio really quickly, what would you do? And he's like, would you buy 3 properties that were $300,000 each and just pay them in cash? And I said, well, that's your best for your income because you don't have any debt on the mortgage. So there's no mortgages. So you're getting high cash flow. But when it comes to growth, you're only getting growth on that $1 million you spent. Whereas if you go to the bank and you leverage up, you might be able to borrow up to another $2 million, maybe a little bit more. So then when it goes up in value, you're getting a value increase on the whole amount. And apart from what you owe the banks, that's yours to keep in the future. And there's things around capital gains tax and stuff, but it's not as simple as it once was, and it's not the same economic environment, and growth isn't predicted the same way it has been. But it's a real balancing act there of cash flow, future growth, and understanding leverage.
Where should people go if they want to know? I guess it's a hard one. Where do they go if they want to know where to move from where they currently are and they want to get into it? It's a hard one.
Mortgage brokers, getting around the right kind of people, networking with individuals that have done it. Property
The right
coaches,
people, yeah.
yeah, property coaches that they trust. And I would always get, if you're going to go down that route, you're spending good money, and a good coach is worth every dollar. But as we've seen, there are some coaches who are not doing so well at the moment, and
Run off with your money.
do your due diligence on a coach like you would on a property, right? Like, you want to get some reports from some of your friends or the people that have been clients of theirs in the past or currently are, and make sure that they're doing the right thing. If you want to have like sort of different level chats to people like myself and other investors that are happy to talk, then that's always great as well. And I can be found on Instagram at the.no.bs.propertyguy.
Yeah, we'll be putting that and your hype.
And,
we'll be
and
putting
Hype
those links on the
NZ
bottom of
is
that
my
one.
business page. But yeah, basically just chatting to people that have done things, it's the way you learn from everyone. If you
Have actually, like what you said like earlier about like you need to get in the arena and do it. Like talk to people who are in the arena, because some
Yeah.
financial advisors you talk to, they don't even know how to rent it and they're trying to tell you what's up. And I'm like,
That's it. And that's the same with some personal trainers. They don't have any clients that are in
Yeah.
shape, and they're not in shape. And you're like, well, okay, quite often you'll go to someone who's in shape and ask them what they're doing, what's their secret. And there is no secret. We all can find that information out online, but talking to someone who's done it can often be the difference between implementing it or not. Because we get analysis paralysis, right? And we get all this information and we're like, well, but this person said that. And you're like, yeah, but that person might have gotten lucky, or their situation might be completely different to yours, but you hear it at the surface level and you go, yeah, well, that's what they said. I know them. But you're like, yeah, but you don't know what questions to ask. So
yeah. I think these days too, you're right. There's so much information and everything. It's not like we're short of it. You actually it's like, what can I dissect, or what can I like?
I think,
it's really information overload. It's like,
there's
what do
definitely
I?
information overload, and there's conflicting information overload. And I think unfortunately, we're at a position at the moment where the intelligent people search for knowledge, and they know where to look, and they know what benefits them, and it snowballs in that direction. If you're not an intelligent person, it's really easy to get the wrong information and actually go down rabbit holes that will take you in the wrong direction too. Growth will go where you put your energy, and
If you're trying
I
to
think
find the wrong thing, you'll find it, kind of thing. Like,
yeah, that's right. And it's easy to find data to back anything up if you look hard enough,
oh,
and science
that's why
changes.
it's hard for everyone in the world now because there is data to back up any. You can you could write a thesis backing any. You could write like you could find enough information on the computer right now to why the fucking Earth is flat, and you could write a whole fucking thesis on it, and you could figure it out. And like it's passive. I go on sites like interest.co. I quite like the odd thing they have on things like this, and I'll see the same fuck knuckles with these pessimistic fucking yarns every time moaning about the end of the world and everything. And I bet you he's not doing well. He's just like, I'm just going to moan. There's that
Yeah,
old
yeah,
saying, the pessimists are right, but the optimists get rich. And I'm like, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
It's
yeah,
funny.
it's a problem too. Like it is a problem, and success leaves clues, and successful people often hang out together. Really
Yeah,
successful people
100%.
aren't hanging out with people who aren't successful, or if they do, it's because they're family and they see them and they limit their time with them because it's draining being around them. But people who aren't successful don't get to hang around successful people, so then they put them in a group of us versus them. And it's really easy then just to shit on someone when you don't know, you can't relate to them, but and that's a rhetoric that we see all the time in New Zealand, especially election years and stuff. But you know, everyone everyone overestimates the successful people's wealth. Like we go, that person has this, they must be absolutely minted, and you know, but that person might employ 15 people, and all of their money might go back into paying those people's wages, and their business might turn over this much, but how much of it goes back into the business? And
100%.
if that business goes under, that's just not them that's going under, that's 15 people that they employ going under, and we're stuck in an environment where we don't understand that because people don't look. Because if you're not a successful person, you don't see that.
No, they don't understand all the outgoings either. They have no idea people haven't run a business a lot of the time. Like it's like I had a gym, and I think when I sold that, I think most members I got it up to about 750 or something. But the first year in that business, I lost 100 grand. But everyone coming in there would have just seen nice shiny gym, lots of shit, lots of people walking around. This cunt's balling.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was not
exactly,
balling.
100%.
I was driving an old Nissan Mistral with about 4 grand around at the time, going, "What the fuck have I done?"
Yeah, yeah, and that's it, right? And it's hard. You need to make a decision. Do I weather this out and keep going, or do I pull pin? And then we, uh, the right kind of mindset will always end up in the right sort of results eventually, right? Because even if that doesn't work out, they'll find the thing that does. But we do have a real shift of people at the moment who seem to think that, you know, success is robbing someone of something. Whereas
Yeah,
oftentimes successful people are the ones who are actually propping everyone else up, you know.
yeah,
And
employing people
I'm
and
not
blah blah
I'm
blah.
not what I deem highly successful, especially around some of the people I spend time with. But I also know that um, you know, time and compounding effects go hand in hand. You can't get you can't get compounding effects if you don't have time, and that you don't. Not everything's about money either. A lot of it's for freedom. You know, as you
No,
know, you're kind of similar to me in that sort of sense. I'd rather make less and have more time than be obsessed with what I'm
same,
doing. You know,
same, 100%.
and so
Yeah,
we see that a
and
lot.
you, what's kind of weird, like you probably are doing a lot better than most people, but when you hang around, I'm the same. Like you hang around these circles of people, and it's like you're always looking up a lot of the time, and you think. My missus will even be like, "What the fuck's wrong with you?" Sometimes I'm like, I feel like I'm dragging behind in this or whatever," and she's like, "What?
Yeah,
Like you're not fucking dragging behind here." But if you look at averages, I seen the average the other day. I think the average house value is 795 in New Zealand. So like the average couple probably own 800 grand house together, and that's the totality of what they own.
yeah, yeah,
So we get out of whack because we hang out with like My
Yeah.
brain always does these fuck things, and I think it's a curse of being. When you get on that, you got to be careful you're not just chasing dragons forever, because you can be like, I wanted one rental, I wanted two, and then you hit these targets. Have you done it? Like giving yourself a target, then you hit it and you move the goalpost. Do you do that?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I try and spend a lot of time being grateful. Now, it's something I think I went through a divorce, and I felt like I took, a few steps backwards financially going through that, and I had to sort of recalibrate my life. And I try and have conversations with people that are more intelligent than me frequently, because I think it's a good way to grow. And I try and also hang out with people who are wanting to grow. And people say, well, what do you do if your partner is not the same sort of minded as you are around property and finance or whatever, success maybe. But success is different to everyone. So, I think having two people that are exactly the same, you lose a bit of balance. So you need to kind of understand what you want. You can have someone exactly the same as you, or you can have someone completely the opposite as you. I think the ideal was finding someone with a bit of a balance, that you can understand each other on all the levels, but they bring something else to the table you don't always have. And so, yeah, that going through, I don't want to, yeah, going through a divorce is obviously a costly expense for people, and it looks different
Experience.
to everyone.
But do you find yourself? I do this personally, and I try not do it as much now, but I find it like a through arrow of successful people, which is nearly like a curse. A lot of people I know, they shift goalposts on themselves a lot.
Yeah,
Like you'll
yeah,
reach
and
the thing and be like, "Do you do that?"
I, I kind of, I feel like it's a bit of a curve that you do that when you start out, because you think you become obsessed with the attaining the
Metrics,
thing,
basically.
as opposed
Yeah.
to what it brings you. And then when you think about what it brings you, you don't need to be obsessed about the thing as much. I think there are successful people who love the deal. And I think that's great. Like if you love the deal, that's one other thing. Like if I was completely financially free and at a level that I was happy with, I think I would still do deals, because I like interacting with people, I like property, I like analyzing things. And that brings like a positive feeling in general. But I don't think that it's healthy when you attach yourself to the financial side of it, and that more and more and more and more and more. Because, as studies show, once you get to a certain level of comfort, your happiness doesn't keep increasing at the same rate. And I think it probably makes a lot of people insufferable
You just
to be around that are so obsessed with that. So I don't want to be like that. I think it's true. And I think maybe when I first started, I was like, I need this and this and this. And then you go, oh, okay. Once you start having that thing, you then go, oh, that's not actually what I thought it was. And so then you try and find joy in the other things you're doing. I have experiences where I sit there and I think, either during or afterwards, man, I was very fortunate to be in a position I could do that. I could never have done that before. Or people in my family would never have been able to do that. And it's awesome that I got to do that, especially out of building something for myself, you know.
I try
So,
doing that now. And the thing I've started doing a lot lately is just trying to enjoy meals. Like I just be like every
yeah,
morning I usually go out for breakfast. I go down, I'm sitting at the mount looking at the beach, like sitting in a cafe. I do
yeah,
that every morning when I get up. Go have eggs,
yeah,
salmon. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, fuck, people do this once a week for a treat. You do it every fucking day. Like,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
so instead of just scoffing that food like a dog, I actually sit there. I used to just scoff it like a dog. Now I sit there and I eat it and
You
chew it a
still
bit
eat it like
slower
that.
and think,
Yeah. You're still stuffing it like a
yeah.
dog. You're just going, man, this is really good.
I'm a fox terrier now. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Okay,
definitely think that that's a good way to be. Um,
the
but
small things, yeah.
yeah, the small things, and I think those are the things that, because you can do them more often, they're the things that sit with you more, right? Like growing up, we didn't go out for dinners.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Christchurch, so I went to like Hornby High, which is sort of lower socioeconomic area. Solo mum, no brothers or sisters. Lived with my grandma as well. My mum and grandma stopped talking, even though they lived in the same house for about 10 years. So wasn't the wasn't the easiest of upbringings,
Yeah.
but I
So
think that gives you
y-
joy in finding stuff later on, right?
So did you have, I guess, what were the hardships and challenges as a kid? Because a lot of the time I find what shapes people as their adults is what they went through as children. Not always, but sometimes. So
Yeah, oh,
I
for
guess,
me, massively. Yeah, like growing up in my house was not the easiest. Like I said, my mother was, well, her and my grandmother stopped talking for over 10 years, which makes things a little bit difficult.
do you know
But,
why?
uh, yeah, so, it's a pretty long story, but my mum was on benefit for most of my life. She worked in patches once I got a bit older, but she also, so she wasn't the easiest person to deal with. She wasn't, when she died, or 2 months before she died, she found out I had a rental and she's like, oh, you've got a rental. I only just heard. And I was like, because I never wanted to tell her because I thought she hated successful people. Oh, we've lost that.
You there?
Yeah, I just lost you for a second. I'm coming back. Are you good?
Yeah, no, carry on. So yeah, she didn't like successful people, and is that why
Yeah,
her and
yeah.
your nan butted heads? I guess.
We had a sign on the gate that said "Our dog bites national supporters."
Awesome. Really appreciated you being on here. Your wealth of knowledge when it comes to the real estate game.